Hello again, guys. Today we're going to be looking at how to add and subtract using the positive and negative tiles. So I'm showing you right now how would we add -3 plus +4. So I went ahead and drew the negative tiles. I have three negative tiles and 4 positive tiles. And in order to add these, what we're going to try to make is what's called a zero pair. A zero pair is basically when you have a negative and a positive, and it's called a zero pair because you basically have two things that are canceling each other out, because you have a negative one and a positive one that are together, and this equals 0. So that's why this is called a zero pair, and you're going to hear me referring to that throughout the video. So I need you to write this down. Before you write anything else down, please write what a zero pair is, as we will be using it a lot. So in this first example, in order to add these -3 and +4, we need to try and make as many zero pairs as possible. So go ahead and copy down the example 1. To make the zero pairs, guys, we're basically going to move the negative tiles. If you had them physically in front of you, you would be able to do this. So I'm showing you in the video. I move them there so that I have positives and negatives creating zero pairs. So now I have one zero pair, another zero pair, and a third zero pair. Now, since I made 3 zero pairs, these are all basically going to get canceled out, because remember what I mentioned at the beginning, zero pairs are equal to 0. So I was able to cancel those out. They're not there anymore. And what am I left with is my answer. So right now, I am left with a positive tile, only one. So my final answer to this is -3 plus +4 is equal to a +1. That is my answer to that. Okay, let's go ahead and look at example 2. In example 2, we have a +5, and we're trying to take away -2. Now, the problem here is, guys, that we don't have any negatives to take away. So I can't actually physically take away -2 because I don't have negatives to begin with. So when we have this kind of situation, what we're going to do is use zero pairs. We're going to use zero pairs so that when we add them, we're going to add two negatives that are zero pairs. So technically we're not really adding anything. We're adding a 0. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean by that. I'm adding two negatives, but as 0 pairs. Since I added these to my group, I can now take away two negatives, because now I have two negatives to take away. So I can go ahead and cancel these out. So I'm going to move these out of the way. They're not here anymore. Okay, so I took them away. So now what I am left with is my answer. So I am left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positives. So sorry, let me go ahead and write that in green. We have 7 positive tiles, so my answer is a +7. Okay, guys, third example, we have a +8, and we are trying to add -10. So we're not taking anything away this time, we're just adding -10. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 10 negatives. Whoops, wrong color. So here we go. I have 1, 2, 3. Now, the reason I'm writing them right underneath each other is because I want to, again, we're trying to form 0 pairs so we can figure out our answer. So I write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and these are all negative tiles. So now I can start creating my 0 pairs. So I have 1 0 pair, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a total of 8 0 pairs. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, guys, all of these are worth nothing, so they're canceling out. I have 0 right there. So what do I have left over? I have these two negatives left over. So my answer to this question is going to be -2. In this example, so this is our fourth example, I have -6 tiles and I want to take away a +4. Well, the problem here is, guys, we don't have positives to take away, just like in the other example where we didn't have negatives to take away. So again, we're going to add 0 pairs so that we can take away 4 positives. So I'm going to add 4 positives, but as 0 pairs. So technically, I didn't add anything because these are equal to 0. Now that I added these 4 0 pairs, I can now take away the 4 positives that they wanted me to take away. So I take those out. And now I see what I'm left with. So I am left with all these negatives, which if I count them, there's 6 and then 4 more negatives. So my answer would be -10. Now guys, this is going to be our last example. I just wanted to show you how we would use the tiles if they're both the same. So if I'm adding 2 positives or 2 negatives, or subtracting 2 positives and 2 negatives, it's actually pretty simple when we have the same kind of tiles. So in this case, I have 6 positives. I want to add 3 negatives, so I would just go ahead and draw, or in your case, you would add, we would go ahead and add 3 more of these. So then I would just count to see what my answer was. So, 6 positives plus 3 more positives is giving me 9 positive tiles. And if you look at the second, it's still part of the same example. I have 7 negatives and I want to add 1 more negative, so I would just bring 1 more in and then count what I have. So -7 plus -1 gives me -8 tiles. And to finish off the video, guys, I want you to try these 2 problems. Again, drawing your number tiles, or if you have your number tiles with you, using them to get your answer. So I want you to do number 1, which is -5 plus 7, and also number 2, which is 9 minus -1. Pause the video, go ahead and try and draw and get your answers, or use the tiles to get your answers, and in a little bit I'll give you the correct answer. And here are your answers, guys. For number 1, you should have gotten +2, and for number 2, you should have gotten a +10. If you have any questions on any of the examples I did or on these practice, go ahead and write them down for me, and in class we will discuss this further.